The envelope was waiting for me when I got home from work, tucked between a stack of bills and grocery store flyers. My name was written across the front in Grandpa Harold's shaky handwriting, the ink slightly faded. At the bottom, in his careful script, only open after. After what? I turned it over in my hands, feeling the weight of whatever was inside. But something told me to wait. My name is Maren, and I'm the family disappointment. At 32, I'm a nanny who lives in a studio apartment above Mrs. Chen's garage, drives a 15-year-old Honda, and apparently commits the unforgivable sin of existing without a college degree or a corner office. My family never lets me forget it. Maren, honey, are you still babysitting? That's how my mother Prudence always asks about my job, like she's afraid the words might contaminate her mouth. She says it the same way she'd ask if I'm still doing drugs or dating felons. It's called being a nanny, Mum. Of course, dear. And how's that working out for you? The answer is that it's working out fine. I love the kids I care for. I'm good at what I do. But in the Wallace family hierarchy, loving your job doesn't count if it doesn't come with a 6-figure salary and business cards. My siblings learned this lesson early. Athena, my older sister, is a corporate attorney who wears suits that cost more than my monthly rent. She speaks in legal jargon even at family dinners and has never met a conversation she couldn't turn into a cross-examination. Maren, you know there are programs for people like you, she told me last Christmas, cutting into her prime rib with surgical precision. Adult education, community college. You don't have to stay stuck. Brian, my brother, nodded along while scrolling through property listings on his phone. He's a real estate investor who treats every family gathering like a networking event. I could get you into an entry-level position at one of my companies. Receptionist work. Nothing fancy, but it's a start. Rachel, the baby of the family at 29, looked up from taking selfies long enough to add, "You could totally rebrand yourself. I know this amazing life coach who helps people pivot their careers. She's got like 2 million followers." And there I sat, the charity case they were all trying to fix. The only person who never made me feel broken was Grandpa Harold. I remember the last time I saw him, about 3 months ago. We were sitting on his back porch, watching the sun set over the land he'd owned for 40 years. The rest of the family had left after their obligatory visit, 30 minutes of small talk and complaints about the drive out to his place. "They're all so busy," he said, not looking at me, "always rushing somewhere important. You don't seem bothered by it." He smiled and reached into his wallet, pulling out a crisp $100 bill. "For gas money," he said, pressing it into my hand, "and maybe a little something nice for yourself." "Grandpa, I can't." "You can, and you will." His eyes were sharp despite his 86 years. "You're the only one who visits because you want to, not because you think you should." That was Harold. He saw things clearly, even when everyone else was looking through filters. Which is why I should have known something was wrong when I found out he died through a Facebook post. Rachel had posted a picture of herself in black designer sunglasses with the caption, "R.I.P. Grandpa Harold. Heaven gained an angel today. Family, grief, blessed." 43 likes and counting. No phone call, no text. Just a social media announcement with hashtags. I stared at my phone screen, feeling something cold settle in my chest. He'd been gone for 2 days, and nobody had bothered to tell me. I drove out to his house that afternoon. The driveway was empty except for my Honda. No other cars, no family members sorting through his things or making arrangements, just me and the silence. That's when my phone rang. "Is this Maren Wallace?" "Yes." "This is Nicholas Swanson. I was your grandfather's attorney. I'm very sorry for your loss." "Thank you. I need to schedule a reading of Mr. Wallace's will. Your presence is not only requested, it's crucial. Would Friday at 2 o'clock work for you?" Something in his tone made me sit up straighter. "Crucial how?" I think it's best if we discuss that in person. Will the rest of your family be available at that time? I can ask them. Please do. And Maren, make sure you're there. It's very important. After I hung up, I sat in Grandpa's empty driveway and pulled out the envelope again. The paper felt heavier now, weighted with possibilities I couldn't name, only open after. After the will reading, I decided. Whatever this was, it could wait until then. The law office smelled like leather and old money. I walked into the conference room 15 minutes early, wearing my best dress, a simple black number I'd bought for job interviews. The receptionist had offered me coffee twice, probably because I looked like I didn't belong. My family was already there when Nicholas led me in. They'd claimed the seats closest to the head of the table, a united front in designer clothing. Athena wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car payment. Brian had on his serious business navy blazer. Rachel was in head-to-toe black, but somehow she'd made mourning look like a fashion statement. Mom sat at the centre, her silver hair perfectly styled, hands folded like she was posing for a portrait. Maren, she didn't get up. You're late. Actually, I'm 5 minutes early. If you say so, dear. I took the empty chair at the far end of the table. The leather creaked as I sat down. Did she get lost on her way to mop a floor? Rachel whispered to Brian, not quite quietly enough. Brian snorted. Maybe she had to drop the kids off first. I can hear you, I said. We're just surprised you made it, Athena said, not looking up from her phone. Don't you usually work Fridays? I took the afternoon off. How responsible of you. Nicholas cleared his throat as he entered with a thick folder. Thank you all for coming. I know this is a difficult time. Let's just get this over with, Brian said, checking his watch. I have a showing at 4. Of course. Nicholas opened the folder and pulled out several documents. Harold's will is straightforward, but I want to make sure everyone understands the terms clearly. Mom leaned forward. He always said he wanted to take care of the family. Indeed he did. Nicholas adjusted his glasses. Let me start with the personal bequests. He lifted the first page. To Athena Wallace Murray, I leave my collection of law books and my gratitude for your sharp mind. Athena smiled. That's sweet. What about the house? To Brian Wallace, I leave my tools and workshop equipment with hopes you'll build something meaningful. Tools? Brian's smile faltered. What about the land, the investments? To Rachel Wallace, I leave my camera collection and the reminder that the best pictures capture truth, not just beauty. Rachel's face went blank. Cameras, that's vintage, I guess. To Prudence Wallace, I leave my mother's china set and my appreciation for the family you raised. Mum's hands tightened. Nicholas, where are the real assets? The property, the stocks? Nicholas turned the page. To my beloved granddaughter Maren Wallace, I leave the entirety of my remaining estate, including all real property, financial investments, and personal effects not previously mentioned. I also name her as the sole executor of this will. The room went dead silent. I'm sorry, what? Athena stood up so fast her chair rolled backward. That can't be right, Brian said. Read it again. Nicholas's voice remained steady. Maren Wallace is the sole beneficiary and executor of Harold Wallace's estate, valued at approximately $750,000. That's impossible, Mum whispered. Rachel was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. She doesn't even have a real job. There must be a mistake, Athena said, her lawyer voice kicking in. My grandfather wouldn't... Your grandfather was very specific about his wishes, Nicholas interrupted. This will was updated 6 months ago and properly witnessed. 6 months ago? Brian's face was turning red. He was probably senile. She manipulated him. Mr. Wallace was of sound mind when he made these changes. I have medical documentation to that effect. I finally found my voice. I don't understand. Nicholas looked at me with something that might have been sympathy. Your grandfather left detailed instructions. He wanted you to have everything. Everything? The word came out as a croak. The house, the 40 acres, his investment portfolio, savings accounts and all personal property. You're also in complete control of how any remaining assets are distributed. Athena slammed her hand on the table. This is ridiculous. She's a nanny. What's she going to do with land and investments? That's entirely up to her, Nicholas said. Mum's voice was ice cold. Harold always had a soft spot for strays. Excuse me, I said. You heard me. You've been playing the victim your whole life, and now you've convinced a sick old man to... Mum, stop. Don't you dare tell me to stop. This family has supported you through your disasters, your failed marriage, your complete lack of ambition, and this is how you repay us. I didn't know about any of this. Of course you didn't, Brian said. You just happened to be his favourite little charity case. That's enough, Nicholas said firmly. The will is legal and binding. If anyone wishes to contest it, that's your right. But I should warn you that Mr. Wallace anticipated that possibility. What's that supposed to mean? Athena demanded. Nicholas pulled out another document. He left a sealed letter explaining his reasoning. It's quite detailed. We want to see it, Mom said. It's addressed to Maren. She can share it if she chooses, but legally it's her property. All eyes turned to me. I felt like I was drowning. I need some air, I said, standing up. Maren, wait, Nicholas called. There's one more thing. I turned back. Mr. Wallace insisted this version supersedes all others. He had his reasons, and they're notarized. Behind me, I heard Mom gasp and Athena start making threats about legal challenges. But all I could think about was Grandpa Harold pressing that $100 bill into my hand. You're the only one who visits because you want to, not because you think you should. Maybe he'd been planning this all along. The phone started ringing at 7 a.m. the next morning. Maren, we need to talk. Brian's voice was tight with barely controlled anger. This whole situation is insane. Good morning to you too. Don't get cute with me. You know damn well what you did. I sat up in bed, still groggy. What exactly did I do? You manipulated a sick old man into changing his will, but we're not going to let you get away with it. Brian, I'm coming over. We're going to figure this out like adults. I'm not home. I'm at work. Then I'll come to wherever you're working. What's the address? I hung up and turned off my phone. By noon I'd gotten 6 voicemails from various family members and 3 texts from numbers I didn't recognise. Athena had apparently enlisted her law firm colleagues to help research my options. The only call I returned was from Nicholas. How are you holding up? He asked. I've been better. My brother wants to contest the will. I expected as much. Can you come in this afternoon? There are some documents you need to see. An hour later, I was back in his office, this time alone. Your grandfather left very specific instructions, Nicholas said, pulling out a thick folder. He anticipated your family's reaction. He knew they'd be angry. He knew they'd feel entitled. Nicholas opened the folder. He also knew they'd come after you directly. That's why he made you the executor. I don't understand. As executor, you have complete legal authority over the estate. No one can access anything without your permission. Not the house, not the bank accounts, not even sentimental items. But surely they can. They can contest the will, yes. But Harold was very thorough. He documented everything. Nicholas handed me a leather-bound ledger. He kept detailed records of every interaction with your family over the past 5 years. I opened the ledger. Grandpa's careful handwriting filled page after page. March 15th. Brian called asking about selling the back 40 acres. Became aggressive when I refused. Accused me of being stubborn and wasting family money. July 22nd. Athena suggested I move to assisted living. Said the house was too much for me to handle. Asked about power of attorney. December 3rd. Prudence complained about the cost of my medication. Said I was spending the family's inheritance on pills. Page after page of documented conversations, missed visits, and calculated kindness. He was building a case, I said. He was protecting you and himself. Nicholas turned to a page near the back. Look at this entry from 2 months ago. February 18th. Brian showed up unannounced with a real estate agent, said he'd already found a buyer for the land, told me it was for my own good and that I was too old to make financial decisions. When I refused to sign papers, he said I was being selfish and hurting the family. My hands were shaking. He tried to sell Grandpa's land without permission? It gets worse. Nicholas flipped ahead. Your grandfather had the property surveyed last year. There are oil rights on the back section that Brian tried to sell. Rights worth approximately $200,000. Oil rights? Your grandfather never mentioned them to the family. He was saving that information. I stared at the ledger. Brian knew about the oil? Harold suspected he did. That's why he hired a private investigator. Nicholas pulled out a manila envelope. The investigator found that Brian had been researching the property records for months. He knew exactly what he was trying to take. My phone buzzed. Another call from Brian. Don't answer it, Nicholas said. You don't have to talk to any of them until you're ready. What am I supposed to do with all this? Whatever you think is right. But remember, you're in control now. That afternoon, I drove out to Grandpa's house. My house now, I guess. The key felt strange in my hand as I unlocked the front door. Everything was exactly as he'd left it. His coffee cup still sat on the kitchen table. His reading glasses were folded on top of yesterday's newspaper. I walked through the rooms slowly, seeing them with new eyes. This wasn't just a house. It was 40 acres of prime land with oil rights. It was investment accounts and savings that my family had been counting on for years. In his study, I found more ledgers, more documentation. A whole filing cabinet full of evidence that my family had been circling like vultures, waiting for him to die. Behind his desk, I noticed something odd. A family photo from last Christmas was hanging crooked. When I straightened it, I saw that the wall behind it had been recently patched and painted. I pressed against the patch. It gave slightly, like there was a hollow space behind it. My phone rang again. This time it was Mum. Ma and Honey, I think we got off on the wrong foot yesterday. Did we? Of course we did. This whole situation has everyone upset. But we're family. We need to work together. Work together how? Well, obviously you can't handle an estate this size by yourself. You don't have the experience or the education. But Athena could help you manage everything, as a family. Manage everything. The investments, the property decisions, the tax implications. It's very complicated, sweetheart. You wouldn't want to make a mistake and lose everything. I ran my finger along the patched wall. What if I don't want help? Don't be silly. Of course you want help. You're not equipped for this kind of responsibility. Maybe Grandpa thought I was. Grandpa was sick, Maren. He wasn't thinking clearly. He seemed pretty clear to me. Listen to me carefully. Mom's voice turned sharp. This family has a reputation to maintain. We can't have you running around making decisions that affect all of us. Affect all of you how? Don't play dumb. That money should be supporting the whole family, not just you. I hung up and turned off my phone again. Then I found a hammer in Grandpa's toolbox and carefully broke through the patched wall. Inside was a small safe, and taped to the top was an envelope with my name on it. The safe was old but solid, with a combination lock that looked like it hadn't been opened in years. I stared at the envelope taped to the top, my name written in Grandpa's familiar handwriting. A knock at the front door made me jump. I quickly pushed the family photo back into place and walked to the window. A pickup truck I didn't recognize sat in the driveway. Maren, you in there? The voice was familiar, but I couldn't place it. I opened the door to find Seamus, the handyman who'd helped Grandpa with repairs over the years. He was holding a toolbox and wearing work clothes covered in sawdust. Seamus, hi, what are you doing here? Harold hired me to fix the back porch steps before he passed, figured I should finish the job. You don't have to do that. A job's a job. Besides, those steps are dangerous. Someone's going to get hurt. He studied my face. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. Just going through his things. It's harder than I expected. I bet. Harold was a good man, one of the few who paid fair wages and always had a cold beer waiting when the work was done. You can finish the steps. I'll pay you whatever he owed. He already paid me. I'm just here to honour the agreement. Seamus hefted his toolbox. Mind if I get started? Go ahead. I watched him walk around to the back of the house, then return to the study. The envelope felt heavier than it should have, like it contained more than just paper. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Athena. Since you won't answer calls, I'm texting. My firm is prepared to file a challenge to the will on Monday. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. I deleted the text and turned the phone face down. Outside, I could hear Seamus working, the steady rhythm of his hammer mixing with the sound of old wood being torn away. It was oddly comforting. An hour later, he knocked on the back door. Steps are done, but I found something you should see. I followed him to the back porch. The new steps were solid and level, a vast improvement over the rotting boards that had been there before. Look at this. He pointed to one of the old boards he'd removed. This wasn't rot damage. Someone took a crowbar to these steps. The wood was splintered in a way that looked deliberate, not like natural decay. When would someone have done that? Recently, maybe a few weeks ago, Harold mentioned that someone had been snooping around the property, but I figured it was just kids. Snooping how? Looking in windows, walking the property lines, he was worried enough to ask me to install motion sensor lights. Seamus pointed to several new fixtures around the house. They're connected to his phone. He could see when someone was here. His phone? Yeah, he was pretty tech-savvy for his age. Kept everything on his phone. Photos, videos, notes. Said he didn't trust his memory anymore. I thought about the ledger, all those documented conversations. Do you know where his phone is? Probably in his bedroom. He always kept it charging on the nightstand. I found the phone exactly where Seamus said it would be. It was an older iPhone, but when I plugged it in, it powered up immediately. No password protection. Typical grandpa. The photo gallery was full of pictures I'd never seen. Family gatherings where I wasn't present. Screenshots of text messages. Videos that looked like they were taken secretly. I clicked on the most recent video. The timestamp showed it was recorded 3 weeks ago. The camera was shaky, like Grandpa was trying to hide it, but I could clearly see Brian standing in the living room with 2 other men I didn't recognize. Look, the old man's not going to live forever, Brian was saying. When he goes, this place gets sold and we split the money. That's how it's always been planned. What about the sister? One of the men asked. What about her? She's got no claim to anything. She's not even really part of the family anymore. Harold seems pretty attached to her. Harold's got dementia. He doesn't know what he's saying half the time. Once we get power of attorney, we can handle everything properly. The video ended abruptly. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through more files. Screenshots of text messages between Brian and Athena discussing the Maran problem. Photos of real estate listings for similar properties. A recording of a phone call where Mom talked about managing Harold's decline. Find what you were looking for. Seamus had appeared in the doorway, more than I wanted to. I showed him the phone. They were planning to have him declared incompetent. That's why he changed the will. You knew. I suspected. Harold wasn't stupid and he wasn't sick. Sharp as a tack right up until the end. Seamus sat down in the chair across from me. He asked me to keep an eye on the place after he was gone. Make sure nobody tried to break in. Is that what you're really doing here? Partly, but also because I liked the old guy and I like you. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you're the only one who visited him because you wanted to, not because you were checking to see if he was dead yet. Another text came through on my phone, this time from Rachel. Mum's crying. Are you happy now? You've destroyed this family. I showed the message to Seamus. Sounds like they're getting desperate, he said. They want me to feel guilty. Do you? I should, but honestly, I'm starting to get angry instead. Good. Anger's more useful than guilt. My phone rang. Uncle Clayton's name appeared on the screen. I should take this, I told Seamus. Clayton's the only decent one in the family. Maren, honey, how are you holding up? I've been better, Uncle Clayton. I bet. Listen, I need to tell you something about your grandfather. Something the rest of the family doesn't know. What is it? Harold called me about a month before he died. He was worried about your family's behaviour, so he asked me to be a witness to something. A witness to what? He recorded a video message, a long one, explaining why he was leaving everything to you. He wanted to make sure his reasoning was documented, in case anyone tried to challenge his mental state. Where is this video? Nicholas has it. Harold made me promise not to say anything unless the family tried to contest the will. They're planning to file a challenge on Monday. Then I guess it's time you saw what your grandfather really thought about all this. After Clayton hung up, I sat in Grandpa's chair, holding his phone and thinking about the envelope still taped to the safe. You ready to open that letter? Seamus asked quietly. I nodded and walked back to the study. This time I carefully removed the envelope and tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a short message. Maren, use what I left for you and show them who you are without becoming what they are. The combination is your birthday. Everything you need is inside. Make me proud. Grandpa, I looked at Seamus. My birthday? Looks like he wanted to make sure only you could open it. I knelt in front of the safe and slowly turned the dial, 0081591. My birthday, August 15th, 1991. The safe clicked open. Inside the safe were stacks of cash, more legal documents, and a small wooden box that looked handmade. I pulled everything out carefully while Seamus watched from the doorway. How much money is that? He asked. I counted quickly. About 15,000 in cash. Emergency fund? Maybe. I opened the wooden box. Inside were pieces of jewellery I recognised. My grandmother's wedding ring, a pearl necklace, and several other items I'd seen in old family photos. At the bottom was another note. These belong to the family, but you decide who deserves them. Choose wisely. H. Your grandfather was a strategic man, Seamus said. My phone rang. Brian again. What? I answered. We need to talk, face to face. I don't think that's a good idea. Maren, I'm trying to be reasonable here, but you're making this very difficult. I'm not making anything difficult. I'm just following Grandpa's wishes. His wishes were insane. You know that, right? You're a nanny. What are you going to do with a $700,000 estate? I guess I'll figure it out. Look, I'll make you a deal. Keep the house if you want it, but let the family manage the investments and the land. We'll make sure you get a fair share of any profits. Define fair share. 10%, maybe 15% if the oil rights pan out. I almost laughed. 10% of my own inheritance. It's not really your inheritance, Maren. It's the family's money. Grandpa was just confused about how to distribute it. He seemed pretty clear to me. He was sick. You took advantage of a sick old man. I'm hanging up now. Wait, there's something else you should know. That classic car in his garage. I already promised it to a collector. He's coming to pick it up tomorrow. You promised my car to someone. It's not your car. It's a family heirloom. It should go to someone who appreciates classic automobiles. Like you. Like someone who isn't going to let it rot in a garage. I walked to the window and looked out at the detached garage. What kind of car is it? A 1967 Mustang, mint condition, worth about $40,000. And you already sold it? I arranged for its sale, yes. The buyer's expecting to pick it up tomorrow at noon. Call him back. What? Call your buyer and tell him the sale is off. Maren, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. I'm being reasonable with my car on my property that I inherited from my grandfather. You're making a huge mistake. Probably, but it's my mistake to make. I hung up and turned to Seamus. Want to see a classic car? The garage was locked, but I found keys on Grandpa's keyring. When we opened the door, I understood why Brian was so interested. The Mustang was gorgeous, deep blue paint that looked like it had been polished yesterday. Chrome that gleamed even in the dim garage light. The interior was pristine black leather. "Holy shit," Seamus whispered. "This thing is beautiful. Brian said it's worth 40,000. At least, maybe more." Seamus walked around the car slowly. "Your grandfather took good care of this. He never drove it when I visited. Probably saving it for special occasions." Seamus opened the hood. "Engine looks rebuilt. This isn't just a pretty car. It's been maintained by someone who knew what they were doing." I found the title in the glove compartment. Harold's name was on it, with a note paper-clipped to the back. "For Maren, may it take you wherever you want to go." My phone buzzed with a text from Athena. "Brian told me about the car situation. You're being childish. That car belongs in a museum or with a serious collector, not sitting in some garage." I showed the text to Seamus. "She's got a point," he said. "If you're not going to drive it, maybe you should sell it. Maybe, but not to whoever Brian picked." Fair enough. That evening I sat at Grandpa's kitchen table with all the family heirlooms spread out in front of me. The jewellery, some old photographs, a few antique books. Things that had been in the family for generations. As executor, I had the authority to distribute these items however I saw fit. Grandpa had made that clear in his note. I picked up my phone and started making calls. "Athena, it's Maren. Finally, are you ready to be reasonable about this situation? I'm ready to distribute some of Grandpa's personal items." "Good. I'd like Mum's pearl necklace and the family Bible. Those have sentimental value." Funny thing about sentimental value. I found some interesting items in Grandpa's files. "What kind of items?" "Remember when you were 16 and you borrowed the pearl necklace for prom? You told Grandpa you lost it and he spent $200 replacing it for Grandma." Silence. "I found the original necklace in your old jewellery box in the attic, along with a note where you admitted to selling it to buy concert tickets. That was 30 years ago, Maren. Sentimental value works both ways, doesn't it?" I hung up and called Rachel. "Oh my God, finally! This whole thing is so crazy. I can't even..." "Rachel, I'm calling about Grandpa's camera collection." "Right. I was thinking I could do like a vintage photography series on Instagram. Very authentic, very artistic." "That's interesting. Because I found some text messages on Grandpa's phone." "What messages?" "The ones where he tried to send you pictures of his garden. You know, the ones you deleted without reading. He sent you 12 messages over the past year. You responded to exactly 0 of them." "I was busy. Too busy for your grandfather, but not too busy for his cameras." "Maren, that's not fair." I hung up and dialed Brian's number. "Have you changed your mind about the car?" he answered. Actually, I'm calling about something else. I found Grandpa's workshop tools in the garage." "Great. I could use some of those for my rental properties." "I'm sure you could. But I also found his ledger where he documented the time you tried to borrow his table saw and never returned it." "What are you talking about?" "The table saw you borrowed 3 years ago, the one you said you'd bring back in a week, the one that's currently in your garage." Brian was quiet. "I think I'll be keeping the tools," I said. "All of them." After I finished the calls, Seamus looked at me with something that might have been admiration. "Feeling better?" he asked. "Actually, yes, I am." "What's next?" I looked at the pile of jewellery and heirlooms. "I think it's time to see what other surprises Grandpa left for me." My phone buzzed with a text from Mum. "What you're doing is cruel and vindictive. Your grandfather would be ashamed." I deleted the message without reading it all the way through. For the first time in years, I didn't care what she thought. Monday morning came with a certified letter from Athena's law firm. I didn't need to open it to know what it said. They were officially contesting the will. Nicholas called an hour later. They filed the paperwork this morning. Are you ready for this? As ready as I'll ever be. Good, because I have something that will end this quickly. Can you be here at 2 and bring Uncle Clayton if he's available? Is this about the video he mentioned? Among other things, your grandfather was very thorough. I called Clayton, who agreed to meet me at the law office. Then I drove to Grandpa's house to pick up the evidence I'd been collecting. The mediation room was smaller than the conference room where we'd read the will. Athena sat with 2 other lawyers from her firm, all of them in matching dark suits. Brian and Rachel flanked Mom, who looked like she'd aged 5 years in the past week. Before we begin, Athena said, I want to state for the record that this isn't personal. We're simply concerned about the validity of a will that was clearly made under duress. Duress? I said. You isolated our grandfather from his family and manipulated him during his final months. I visited him. That's not manipulation. You were the only one visiting him, Brian added. That's textbook elder abuse. Nicholas cleared his throat. Actually, let's address that claim directly. He pulled out a tablet and set it on the table. Mr. Harold left very specific documentation about his family relationships. The screen showed a video of Grandpa sitting in his living room. He looked directly into the camera, alert and composed. My name is Harold, and today is March 15th, 2024. I'm recording this because I know my family will question my mental state after I'm gone. Mom shifted uncomfortably in her seat. I want to be clear about something. I am not suffering from dementia, Alzheimer's, or any other cognitive impairment. My doctor, Dr. Martinez, has confirmed this in writing. I am making these decisions with a sound mind and a heavy heart. Grandpa leaned forward slightly. For the past 5 years, I have watched my family treat my granddaughter, Maren, with cruelty and dismissal. She is the only one who visits me because she wants to, not because she feels obligated. She is the only one who listens when I speak, who remembers the stories I tell, who treats me like a person instead of a burden. This is ridiculous, Athena muttered. Nicholas paused the video. There's more, about 3 hours of it. But let me show you something else first. He pulled out Grandpa's phone and connected it to a speaker. This is a recording from February the 20th, just 6 weeks before Harold passed away. Brian's voice filled the room. Look, old man, you're not thinking straight. This house is too much for you. The land is wasted just sitting here. Let me handle the sale and we'll get you set up somewhere nice. I don't want to sell, Brian. What you want isn't really the issue here. You're not capable of making these kinds of decisions anymore. I'm perfectly capable. Are you? Because from where I'm sitting, you look confused and forgetful. Maybe it's time we talked about power of attorney. Brian, I want you to leave. I'm trying to help you, Grandpa, but you're being stubborn and selfish. This affects the whole family. The recording ended. Brian's face had gone pale. That's taken out of context, he said. Is it? Nicholas played another recording. This one was Athena's voice. Harold, I've been researching assisted living facilities. There are some lovely places that specialize in memory care. I don't need memory care, Athena. Of course not, but it's good to plan ahead. And honestly, this house is becoming a liability. What if you fall? What if there's an emergency and no one finds you for days? Maren checks on me regularly. Maren has her own problems. She can't be responsible for your care. That's why family exists, to make the hard decisions when you can't. I can make my own decisions. Can you? Because yesterday you called me 3 times asking the same question. I called you once, Athena. Once. The recording stopped. Athena was staring at the table. Your grandfather documented every conversation, Nicholas said. Every visit, every phone call, every attempt to manipulate him into signing over his assets. We were concerned about his welfare, Mom said quietly. Were you? Let me play one more recording. This time it was Mom's voice. Harold, you're spending too much money on medications. Do you really need all those pills? They keep me alive, Prudence, but the cost is astronomical. That's money that could be helping the family. It's my money. Technically, it's the family's money. You're just the current custodian. I earned every dollar of that money. And now it's time to think about your legacy. What kind of legacy are you leaving if you spend it all on yourself? The room was dead silent. Clayton spoke for the first time. Harold called me after that conversation. He was heartbroken. Uncle Clayton, Mom started. No, Prudence, you need to hear this. He told me that his own daughter was treating him like a burden, like his life wasn't worth the cost of keeping him alive. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant, and it's exactly why he changed his will. Nicholas turned back to the video of Grandpa. I am leaving everything to Maren because she is the only one who has shown me genuine love and respect. Not because she expects something in return, but because that's who she is. She has been dismissed and belittled by this family her entire life, but she has more integrity in her little finger than the rest of them combined. Athena stood up abruptly. This is character assassination. This is truth, Nicholas said calmly. Your grandfather spent months documenting your behavior because he knew you'd react exactly like this. We're done here, Athena said, gathering her papers. Actually, we're not. Nicholas pulled out another document. There's one more thing. Harold included a clause in his will specifically about legal challenges. What kind of clause? If anyone contests the will and loses, they forfeit any right to future consideration in Maren's distribution of personal effects. Brian's eyes widened. I mean, if you proceed with this challenge and lose, Maren has no legal obligation to give you anything. Not the tools, not the car, not even a photograph. Athena looked at her colleagues, then back at Nicholas. This is extortion. This is your grandfather's final wish. He wanted to make sure that anyone who challenged Maren's inheritance was doing it out of genuine concern, not greed. We need time to consider our options, one of Athena's lawyers said. Of course, but the mediation ends here. If you want to proceed to court, that's your choice. As everyone filed out, Mum stopped beside my chair. He would have wanted unity, not revenge, she whispered. I looked up at her. Maybe he would have, but he also would have wanted his family to treat each other with respect. You're tearing this family apart. No, Mom, you did that years ago. I'm just refusing to pretend it didn't happen. She walked away without another word. Clayton squeezed my shoulder. You did good, kiddo. Harold would be proud. But as I watched my family leave, I wondered if winning was supposed to feel this hollow. 3 days later, Athena called. We're dropping the challenge. Smart choice. Don't gloat, Maren. This doesn't change anything between us. I wasn't expecting it to. But there's something you should know. Brian's in financial trouble. Real trouble. He was counting on Grandpa's money to cover some bad investments. That's not my problem. It could be. Desperate people do desperate things. She hung up before I could ask what she meant. That afternoon I was at Grandpa's house going through more of his papers when Seamus knocked on the door. You look worried, he said. Athena called. She thinks Brian might try something stupid. Like what? I don't know, but she seemed genuinely concerned. Seamus walked to the window and looked out at the driveway. Speaking of Brian, isn't that his truck? I joined him at the window. Brian's silver pickup was parked at the end of the driveway, engine running. How long has he been there? Just pulled up. Want me to go talk to him? No, let me handle this. I walked outside and approached the truck. Brian rolled down his window. We need to talk, he said. So talk. Not here. Get in. I'm not getting in your truck, Brian. Fine. Then listen carefully. His voice was tight. I owe some people money, a lot of money. Money I was supposed to pay back with my share of Grandpa's estate. Again, not my problem. It is your problem if these people decide to come after the family to collect. What kind of people? The kind who don't care about legal technicalities. They just want their money. I felt a chill run down my spine. How much money? 200,000, maybe more with interest. Jesus, Brian, what did you do? I made some investments that didn't pan out. Used some client funds as collateral. It's complicated. It's embezzlement. It's a temporary cash flow problem that your inheritance could solve. My inheritance isn't solving your problems. Brian's face hardened. You know what your problem is, Maren. You've never understood how the real world works. You think you can just hide behind lawyers and legal documents, but money talks louder than paperwork. Is that a threat? It's a reality check. These people I owe money to, they know where you live. They know where you work. They know about this house and all that land. Get off my property. Think about it, Maren. I really think about it. Is your pride worth putting the whole family at risk? He drove away, leaving me standing in the driveway with my hands shaking. Seamus appeared beside me. What did he want? Money, and he's threatening me to get it. What kind of threats? I told him about the conversation. Seamus listened without interrupting, his expression getting darker. You need to call the police, he said. And tell them what? That my brother owes money to scary people. That your brother threatened you. He didn't technically threaten me, he just implied that other people might. That's still a threat. I walked back into the house, my mind racing. Brian was desperate, and desperate people did desperate things. But I wasn't going to let him manipulate me with fear. I called Nicholas. Brian just tried to shake me down for money, I said. What exactly did he say? I repeated the conversation word for word. That's definitely a threat, even if it's indirect. Do you want to file a police report? Not yet, but I want to do something that will get his attention. What did you have in mind? I want to sell one of the land parcels, the one with the oil rights. That's a significant asset, Maren. Are you sure? I'm sure, but I don't want to sell it to just anyone. I want to sell it to someone who will use it for something meaningful. What do you mean? I mean, I want to donate the proceeds, publicly. Nicholas was quiet for a moment. That would certainly send a message. Can you help me set it up? Of course. What kind of organisation did you have in mind? I thought about my own past, about the years I'd spent trapped in an abusive marriage with nowhere to turn. A women's shelter, something local that helps women get back on their feet. I know just the place. Safe Harbour Women's Centre has been looking for funding to expand their programs. Perfect. How quickly can we make this happen? If you're serious about this, I can have the paperwork ready by tomorrow. I'm serious. That evening, I called the director of Safe Harbour Women's Centre. Ms. Rodriguez, my name is Maren. I'd like to make a donation to your organisation. That's wonderful. What kind of donation were you thinking? $200,000. Silence. I'm sorry, did you say 200,000? Yes, I'm selling some land, and I want the proceeds to go toward helping women rebuild their lives. That's incredible. That kind of donation would allow us to expand our transitional housing program and add job training services. Good. There's one condition, though. What's that? I want to make the donation in memory of my grandfather, Harold, and I want it to be public. Press coverage, a dedication ceremony, the works. Of course, we'd be honoured. Great, my lawyer will be in touch with the details. After I hung up, I sat in Grandpa's chair and looked around his living room. Tomorrow the local newspaper would run a story about the donation. Brian would see it, the whole family would see it. They'd understand that I wasn't just holding on to Grandpa's money out of spite. I was using it the way he would have wanted, to help people who needed it. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Saw the news about your donation. Very noble. Hope you can afford to be so generous. Rachel. She'd created a burner account to contact me. I screenshot the message and forwarded it to Nicholas, then blocked the number. An hour later, my phone rang. It was Brian. What the hell do you think you're doing? I'm making a charitable donation. That's my money you're giving away. Actually, it's my money and it's already gone. You can't just throw away $200,000 to spite me. I'm not doing it to spite you, Brian. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do. The right thing to do is help your family. I am helping my family. I'm helping them learn that actions have consequences. You're making a huge mistake, Maren. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. I hung up and turned off my phone. Outside, the sun was setting over Grandpa's land. My land now. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I felt like I was finally doing something he'd be proud of. The dedication ceremony for Harold's house was scheduled for a Saturday morning in October. I'd chosen the name carefully. It honoured Grandpa while making clear what the facility was really about, giving women a safe place to rebuild their lives. The local newspaper had run a feature story the week before, complete with photos of the construction site and quotes from women who'd been helped by Safe Harbour's existing programmes. The headline read, "Inheritance from the Heart, Local Woman Honours, Grandfather Through Women's Empowerment." I was adjusting the microphone on the small stage when Seamus appeared beside me. "Nervous?" he asked. "Terrified. I've never given a speech in front of more than 5 people. You'll do fine. Just speak from the heart." The crowd was bigger than I'd expected. Local officials, volunteers from Safe Harbour, construction workers who'd helped build the facility, and dozens of community members. I spotted several familiar faces from town, people who'd known Grandpa for years. What I didn't expect was to see Clayton walking toward me with a woman I didn't recognise. "Maren, I'd like you to meet someone," he said. "This is Dr. Martinez. She was Harold's physician." Dr. Martinez shook my hand warmly. "Your grandfather talked about you constantly. He was so proud of the woman you'd become. Thank you for coming. I wouldn't miss it. Harold would have loved this." She looked around at the new building. "He always said the measure of a person wasn't what they accumulated, but what they gave away." Ms. Rodriguez from Safe Harbour took the microphone first, explaining how the donation would help expand their programs. Then she called me to the stage. I looked out at the crowd and spotted a familiar car parked at the back of the lot. Mum's Mercedes. She was sitting inside, watching through the windshield. "6 months ago, I inherited my grandfather's estate," I began. "It wasn't something I expected or asked for. But Grandpa Harold left me more than just money and property. He left me a lesson about what really matters." I paused, looking directly at Mom's car. "He taught me that family isn't just about blood. It's about showing up. It's about caring for each other without expecting something in return. It's about seeing people for who they really are, not who you think they should be." The crowd was quiet, listening. Harold's house will provide transitional housing for women leaving abusive situations. It will offer job training, childcare, and counselling services. But most importantly, it will offer something my grandfather gave me, the chance to rebuild your life with dignity. As I spoke, I saw Mom get out of her car and walk closer to the crowd. She stood at the back, arms crossed, but she was listening. My grandfather used to say that the best revenge is living well, but I think he was only half right. The best revenge is living well and helping others do the same. The applause was warm and sustained. As I stepped down from the stage, people approached to shake my hand and share their own stories about Grandpa Harold. I was talking to a group of volunteers when I felt a hand on my shoulder. I turned to find Mom standing behind me. "Can we talk?" she said quietly. We walked away from the crowd toward the edge of the property where Grandpa's old oak tree cast a long shadow. "That was a beautiful speech," Mom said. "Thank you. I want you to know that I'm proud of what you've done here." I waited for the but. It didn't come. "I also want to apologize," she continued, "for the way I treated you, for the way we all treated you." "Mom, no, let me finish." I spent so many years focused on what I thought success looked like that I forgot to see the success that was right in front of me. You survived an abusive marriage. You rebuilt your life. You found work that you love and that makes a difference, and you did it all without asking any of us for help. I asked for help. You just weren't listening. You're right. We weren't listening. She looked toward the new building. But Harold was. He saw what we couldn't see, or wouldn't see. Fair enough. Mom was quiet for a moment. Brian's in rehab, by the way. Gambling addiction. He's getting help. Good. Athena's taking a leave of absence from her firm. She says she needs to figure out who she is when she's not trying to prove she's the smartest person in the room. And Rachel? Rachel's actually doing well. She's using her platform to promote the women's shelter. She's raised almost $10,000 so far. I was surprised. Really? She said it was the least she could do. Her words. We stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the crowd around Harold's house. I know I don't have the right to ask this, Mom said, but is there any chance we could try again? As a family? I thought about Grandpa's letter, about showing them who I was without becoming what they were. Maybe, I said, but it would have to be different this time. I know. No more charity cases, no more fixing me, no more treating me like I'm less than because I chose a different path. I understand. And no more taking me for granted. Never again. Seamus appeared beside us. Sorry to interrupt, but they're about to cut the ribbon. They want you there for the photos. As we walked back toward the building, Mom touched my arm. Maren, I gave you life and you gave me something back after all. What's that? You gave me the chance to see what real strength looks like. The ribbon cutting was simple but meaningful. Ms. Rodriguez handed me the scissors, and as I cut through the red ribbon, I thought about all the women who would walk through these doors in the months and years to come. Women like me who needed a safe place to figure out who they were supposed to be. As the crowd dispersed, I found myself standing alone in front of Harold's house. The autumn sun was warm on my face, and I could hear the sound of children playing in the distance. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. For a moment, I thought it might be another threat from Brian or a manipulative message from Rachel. Instead, it was from one of the women I'd met at Safe Harbour. Thank you for giving us hope. I smiled and put the phone away. Behind me, I heard footsteps on the gravel. Seamus appeared with 2 cups of coffee from the refreshment table. How does it feel? He asked. Like, I finally understand what Grandpa was trying to teach me. Which was? That the best way to honour the people who believe in you is to believe in other people. We stood together looking at the building that would soon be filled with women rebuilding their lives, just like I had rebuilt mine. And for once, I didn't chase anyone's approval. I simply stood there, knowing I'd done something that mattered. The door to my old life was finally closed, but the door to Harold's house was wide open.